Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good. There's no answer. Sorry, what's your name?
Sorry, we're asleep.
Are you Jemma?
Yeah,
Okay, Jemma. Just put your arm a second.
I am. She's yours.
Come on a second.
Sorry, can I
Gemma, do you want to come up?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just run through them.
Hand just see your hands. Alright, Gemma, at this moment, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. Okay, you don't have to say anything, but you may have a defence, do not mention one question, something which you later rely on court. Anything you do say may be given evidence, okay? Once we're in the cuffs.
Am I allowed to...
I'll go explain everything to you. Okay?
Should I get some
Yeah,
shoes
sorry.
on?
What?
If you want to one sec.
Inside?
Who's inside at the moment?
Mother.
Your mother?
Hillary,
Okay.
is it?
If you want to... Oh, can someone lift that up?
Yeah. Let's step back inside.
Is anyone else inside? Just your mum?
Yeah.
There is someone else inside,
No,
or just your
that's
mum?
just my mum, yeah.
Alright, do you want to show
The polite, softly spoken woman whose arrest for murder you've just watched, which, as you saw, included the woman's very courteous semi-greeting, semi-question to the arresting officers, as if that was going to nudge them to let her off or something, is 36-year-old osteopath and single mother Jemma Mitchell, who, on the 11th of June 2021, took the life of her dear friend and fellow Christian 67-year-old Deborah Chuen to get her hands on Deborah's £700,000 fortune. Now viewer, if I've got you hooked on the story so far, do subscribe, give the video a like, drop a comment when you're ready and donate. Hit the thanks button below, I'll appreciate you. Deborah Chuen, whose true name was Mi Chuen Kong, had come all the way over from Malaysia to Wembley, northwest London, 30 years before with her husband. Through property investments, Deborah had built up a considerable level of wealth. Frequently posting Christian messages on her social media accounts, Deborah had both the respect and the goodwill of many people around her, since she often helped out those in need, and I believe that her help was of the monetary kind. However, having long since been widowed, she became known to do things like writing letters to high-profile figures like the Prime Minister, who at the time was Boris Johnson, and to Prince Charles, the latter public figure often being an imaginary dinner guest of Deborah's. She used to set the table for him. Deborah suffered, you see, from paranoid schizophrenia. While she was on antipsychotic medication to manage the condition, she was, as you've probably guessed, an extremely vulnerable person, and remember, she was 67. At a church event held in the summer of 2012, Deborah found herself clicking with a young woman also from North London, in fact from Bondsbury, which isn't very far from Wembley at all, to whom she had been introduced. The woman, an osteopath by profession, was called Jemma Mitchell. As Deborah was learning, Jemma regularly posted Christian apologetics online in keeping with her staunch Christian faith. It wasn't long before the two women, united in particular by their commitment to Christianity, became very, very close friends. Born in Australia, but having been brought to England by her family at the age of 2, Jemma had had a private education before going to university to study human sciences, graduating with her degree in 2004. In 2015, Jemma found herself living in her long dilapidated family home in Bondsbury, having spent the 7 years before this point working as an osteopath over in Australia, and having since learned, very sadly, that on account of her not being registered with the General Osteopathic Council of the UK, she couldn't work as an osteopath here in England. I don't know for sure why Jemma didn't register with the said council, but if I had to guess, I'd say that it was because her qualifications in her field weren't recognised over here. I might be wrong, of course, who knows. I'll tell you this though, while Jemma's family home was basically in ruins, it was no less worth all of £4.6 million. That's well over $5 million if you're watching me in a place where people use US dollars. Jemma occupied the converted garage apartment while her mother and sister had the main floor to themselves, and all three women were promptly conned out of the sum of £230,000 by the two rogue contractors that they had engaged to do the place up. The thing is, having apparently promised Jemma a gift of £200,000 for the refurbishment of her home, Deborah subsequently retracted this promise and got to the point where, following prolonged pestering from Jemma, she ordered Jemma to keep away from her until she had sold her home, which, to remind you, was worth well over £4 million, over $5 million, in order to answer her money problems. Selling her home, you see, is what Deborah had advised Jemma to do when she, Deborah that is, retracted her promise of the £200,000. Now, No fewer than 3 days after Deborah basically sent Jemma packing, Deborah's lodger called the police to report Deborah missing. The bloke related that he hadn't seen his landlady since the previous evening, but that her glasses and her phone were still at home. When the lodger contacted Jemma, who he knew to be a close friend of Deborah's, Jemma chose, funnily enough, not to say, "Oh, I've killed her and cut her head off, and now I'm in the process of planning how and where to dump her body, for which I will probably use my recently deceased neighbour's phone, which I nicked from his flat, to book the hire car that I'll most likely be booking. And hey, I'd better not get a flat tyre on any part of the journey in case the repairman smells the rotting corpse in the boot and later testifies against me in court." Sorry. After a year of planning her return to her home country to visit her family and to get better in some way, Deborah had indeed just left for Malaysia. This is what Jemma told the lodger, who didn't believe her for a minute. More importantly, after looking into this story of Jemma's, which they naturally did in the process of their initial investigation into Deborah's disappearance, neither did the police. Officers rapidly discovered, of course, that no activity had been recorded on Deborah's passport, there'd been no sightings of Deborah leaving her house, none of the local taxi companies had served Deborah on the date of her disappearance, and there had been no non-automatic activity in Deborah's bank accounts. On the 6th of July 2021, however, Jemma took to answering the new probes that she was facing from the police, not with the said cock and bull story from before, but rather with no comment. The family who, while out walking their dog on June the 27th in Salcombe, all the way down in Devon, southwest England, some 200 miles away from Wembley, discovered Deborah's body, you understand, hadn't hesitated to report it.
It's emergency.
Hi, I just found a body.
Oh, go ahead, caller. What's your emergency?
I just found a body.
Right, okay. A body, is it... Are they breathing?
No, they're dead. They look like they've possibly been there like a few days or something. There's some flies and stuff.
Right, okay. Bear me a second. Let's pop this on.
What's the road?
Yeah, what road are you on?
I'm in Salcombe.
You're in Salcombe, sorry. Let me have a look. I can populate, hopefully, where you are. So, Bennett Road, are you quite near the harbour?
We're up from North Stand Beach. Hang on, we'll just look at Google Maps.
Oh, okay, yeah, so I can see North Sands Bay.
Road.
Bennett Road, yeah, you are on Bennett Road.
The body was headless. On this point, police noted in particular, on arriving at the scene, how clean the skin around the victim's neck was. The head had clearly been removed then with precision and skill. Now, you don't get that sort of cut from an amateur or from the biting and tearing done by animals, say, in case the murder suspect, whoever it would turn out to be, would allege that that is what had caused the victim's death, meaning that the suspect, him or herself, had no case to answer. You get it from a graduate of human sciences who often boasts online, no less, of her skills in human dissection. At uni, students of medicine and of human sciences get to practice this skill on the bodies of people who have donated their bodies to research. When 4 days later, meaning July the 1st, 2021, Deborah's head was found, and it wasn't very far from the body, a fracture was discovered in the skull. Notwithstanding, given how decomposed the body was at this point, Deborah having been killed 20 days before, Deborah's cause of death couldn't be determined. Now, there was CCTV showing Jemma leaving her home at 6:15 a.m. on the 11th of June 2021, rolling a blue suitcase and a black backpack, the two things seeming very light, not causing Jemma any sort of struggle or tiredness that anyone could note. CCTV also shows Jemma 25 minutes later in a change of clothes, don't know where she got changed, and with both a hat and a face covering on, and it showed her putting the backpack inside the suitcase. She walks in the direction of Deborah's home. At 7:56 a.m, the point at which Jemma is more or less on Deborah's doorstep, surveillance cameras show Jemma with her hat removed, but of course still wheeling the suitcase and still wearing the face mask. It's between now and 12:59 p.m. the same day that Jemma murders Deborah. However she does it, because as I say, Deborah's cause of death couldn't be determined, since 12:59 p.m. is when Jemma is next captured on CCTV, and at that point she's just outside Deborah's home. She's now lugging the suitcase and the backpack separately, only this time they seem to be rather heavy, if not extremely heavy. No idea what's in the backpack, but the suitcase contains a dead body. 15 days later, meaning the 26th of June 2021, street cameras capture Jemma loading the suitcase into a Volvo SUV, which, as I hinted earlier, Jemma booked using the phone that she had stolen from a neighbour of hers who had recently died. So even before she does the horrendous thing to Deborah that she actually does, it's not as if she's been a goody two-shoes. She's, got something of a track record for dishonesty, and I'll say a bit more about that later. There is CCTV showing the same Volvo 3 to 4 hours later driving through Bennett Road in Salcombe in the direction of the wooded area where Deborah's body was found. I don't think it was inappropriate of me to have laughed at Jemma when I learned that on her way back to London, she got the shits when she had to let a repairman access her car in order to remedy the flat tyre that she had got. The guy did the repair at the service station that Jemma had to stop off at. Lee Garden, the repairman, recounted that Jemma had seemed markedly distracted and confused. In other words, she had the shits, but yet that she had the presence of mind to order him not to open the boot of her car and to leave the flat tyre, which he was changing, with her. What Mr. Garden described as a strange, musty smell coming from the car was, without his realising it, the smell of death itself. In their search of Jemma's home, which they performed shortly after arresting Jemma, police found Deborah's will, which left 95% of her money, whose amount was £700,000, to Jemma, while leaving the remaining 5% to none other than Jemma's mother. And yes, of course the will was a blatant forgery created by Jemma. I'll tell you now that I haven't been able to find out any details of any children that Deborah may have had, or any other relatives that, would have been the ones to have expected to inherit from Deborah at the time of her death. In her police interview following her arrest, Jemma offered none of the courtesy and casualness that she had shown earlier when she opened her door to the police. In the clip that you're about to see, the last time we hear her answer, she actually sounds quite irritated, as if she felt that she was being wronged in some way. Just listen.
And they've said that the person driving the Volvo waited in the car all that time with the windows down and the front door open, the passenger door open, when it was literally chucking it down with rain and it was windy. Why is that, Jemma?
No comment.
The car stank, didn't it, Jemma?
No comment.
Stunk of a dead person.
No comment.
Stunk of Deborah's decomposing body. Is that right, Jemma?
No comment.
To sum up everything that was wrong with what Jemma did to Deborah, I honestly can't do any better than the judge of Jemma's trial, which took place in October 2022.
You are now 38 years of age. You have one minor previous conviction for breach of a non-molestation order, which arose in a domestic context. I propose to ignore that and to treat you as a woman of effective previous good character. That large suitcase contained Deborah Chuen's body. I have no doubt that you had killed her whilst you were at her house. And, absent any explanation from you, given that you went no comment throughout your police interviews and did not go into the witness box, I am driven to the conclusion that you went to her house that morning with that intention in mind. As to aggravating features, there are the following. Firstly, the amount of planning and premeditation that went into this offence, although it is right to acknowledge that this is bound to be an invariable feature of a killing done for gain, and I must avoid double counting in that regard. Secondly, there is the issue of Deborah's mental and physical vulnerability, to which I have already referred, and of which you were very well aware. Thirdly, there is the chilling aspect of what you did to and with her body after you had killed her. You have shown absolutely no remorse, and it appears that you are in complete denial as to what you did, notwithstanding what, in my judgment, amounted to overwhelming evidence against you. The enormity of your crime is profoundly shocking, even more so given your apparent religious devotion, as well as the fact that Deborah Chuen was a good friend to you and had shown you great kindness. The sentence of the court is one of life imprisonment, and the minimum term of imprisonment that you will in any event be required to serve will be 34 years. There will be deducted from that term the 475 days that you have spent in custody on remand.
Poor Deborah. As the judge said, and as we can all see for ourselves, she 100% didn't deserve what that greedy, evil bastard Jemma Mitchell did to her. Speaking of greed and evil, since Jemma's conviction, some of the woman's former friends have spoken up about Jemma's habit of stealing not just their money, but also their lovers. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.